you couldn't ask for a better thing to come into as a new Chief Executive, to be right into the heart of a long-term plan. So I've been here a month and it's very much been about meeting people, there's a lot of stakeholders and partners, as you know. My role in Victoria was Deputy Chief of the CFA, yep, which is the main fire agency in Victoria. Part of that role is obviously the preparation for bushfires. When we get into a response for bushfires, it's sort of like an all-agency response. So we take on roles called State Response Controller, which is you have the control of all of the state's response agencies except for police. So in the 2019-2020 bushfires, I did that role of State Response Controller on roster with others, and was responsible for leading the state's response to what was pretty large and quite long bushfire season. You know, the impact on our communities was huge, and I believe that you even had a bit of smoke and well about that journey that we were on. And then as we were starting to help our communities begin their recovery phase, COVID became known and became far more of an issue which needed its own holistic management. So around September in 2019, I got seconded to coordinate the COVID response for Victoria. So from my fire role into that emergency management health coordination role. And the reason that I use the word coordination is it's really important, because I didn't have control of an operation. We had actually between 12 and 18 operations running at any one time, and you'll know that Victoria had a pretty significant resurgence of COVID. So my job was to coordinate all of those operations to make sure that we were heading in the right direction to bring that response under control. Over 800 members of the community died in that second wave, and a lot of those were our most vulnerable community members, because COVID got into the rest homes and in particular into vulnerable parts of the community. So once we were on that steep trajectory of infections rising, and bear in mind I sort of came in not at the start of this, but about halfway through, a lot of what we were doing was trying to get that curve to come back down and get people back into COVID normal is the words that we used. So there were some personal and professional challenges for everyone. We had over 100 days of our second lockdown, significant lockdown, domiciled to 5 kilometres of your home, curfews in place, so not allowed out at night. Kiwis know the story here, but it was the second time that we'd done it, so mentally it was hard for people and it was really long. So 2020 was a year of homeschooling at the same time that we needed to understand how to maintain our emergency response, so getting trucks out the door, for example, and then through to how do we coordinate that all of government. I was actually really starting to look for a change. I had a wonderful career in fire and emergency, and I was lucky enough to enjoy it as much on the first day as I did on the last. Now, you may remember back in the day that fire was part of local government. Yeah. So I did have some really strong relationships, peer relationships, but also stakeholder relationships with councils. And so I did start to think that I would like to make a move to local government. At the same time that COVID hit, that really did lend a lot of us living overseas to think about where we wanted to be, cut off from our country and our families. And so those two things just happened to combine at the right time for me, an opportunity to work in local government, to bring my family to Hawke's Bay, a place that we absolutely loved to live, and to come back to New Zealand. It was the trifecta.
Antarctica?
Oh, who isn't?
Have you got your outfit yet?
Many. It was part of the job description. Yeah, what's not to love?